Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So now that you are back, we can, excuse me, check this person. Okay. All right, admit. So we'll be looking at a brief history of diversity. Most of the, of course, like every other thing, diversity also have a history. With this, in the remaining slides, we'll be looking at the history and other concepts that were not covered in the previous lecture. So let's begin. As you can see on the screen, the diversity is not a new thing. It's not a new issue in America, especially in the American workplace. So from late 1800 to the early 1900s, most of the groups that migrated to the United States were from Italy, Poland, Ireland, and Russia. So members of these groups were considered outsiders because they did not speak English. So they faced their own challenges then. For instance, they struggled often violently to gain acceptance in industries such as coal industry, steel, automobiles, insurance, and finance. So and as late as 1940s, and in some cases later than that, we have just 1 minute. Let me see if I have this person here. Yeah. So as late as 1940s, 1940s, and in some cases more than that. So colleges routinely discriminate against immigrants, Catholics, immigrants, Catholics. Colleges tend to discriminate against them. One of the, I think the U.S. presidents there, one of the, past U.S. president, I think his name, when he was a young person, and he almost got rejected at Harvard. I think it's Harvard. I think it should be Harvard. His name is President U.S. Kennedy. Sorry, President Kennedy. When he went to go to college, he almost got rejected. It should be Harvard that year. Anyway, I think you get the point. At colleges at that time, you routinely discriminate against immigrants, Catholics, Jews, and so on, establishing strict quotas and that limited education and employment prospects. So it wasn't until the 1960s, basically, yeah, until the 1960s, that the struggle for acceptance by the various white ethnic and religious groups had on the whole, succeeded. So now we can look at other aspects of the diversity history. I want to accept this person. Almost everybody showed up today. Now, so looking at that, we have that the most difficult struggle for equality has involved the America's non-white minorities. I mean, by that I mean the Black Americans, particularly. So American non-white minorities. So there was a time that we have what was called rigid segregation, which remained a fact of American life for 100 years after the Civil War. And then racial discrimination in education, employment, and housing throughout the United States was a harsh daily reality at the time, So I'm sure that you guys know about the book. The small few must have had the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Stowe. I hope I stated her name correctly. Harriet Beecher Stowe. So that book addressed the tragedy and challenge of racism. Now, we all know about the Brown and the Board of Education. So, which, in 1954, the unanimous Board of Brown versus the Board of Education of the Supreme Court decision is a Supreme Court decision, basically. In that decision, the Supreme Court, court declared segregation unconstitutional. So, and that set the stage for the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, many rights that all Americans take for granted today, for instance, equal employment opportunity, fair treatment in housing, illegality of religious, racial, and sex discrimination, all those things, many of those rights received their greater impetus from the civil rights movement. Yeah. So, and we enjoy it today without, all of us today, we did not, I can say most of us in this classroom did not experience what our parents and our grandparents, experienced during that time. So, but it's good. The good thing is that they fought for us. It is now up to us to take advantage of the victory they brought us to, succeed. Now, assimilation, you must have heard of assimilation. The additional American image of assimilation is one of, I would say the best way to say this is that the traditional American image of diversity is one of assimilation, So in the United States is idealized as a melting pot of the world, which means that the United States is a place where religious, ethnic, and racial differences are blended into an American identity. So that melting pot is expected to be to keep growing and even to be more diverse as the U.S. population grows from 319 million today to 417 million. The estimate by 2060. And also, as minorities are expected to be the majority of the population by that time, so all Americans know, as all Americans know, this journey, is filled with challenges, setbacks, and yes, of course, victories. But it is a possible thing that will happen. Now, the customs of various groups that make up the United States, the American society, we are unique and different from each other in many ways, especially from things like religious beliefs, sex and gender norms, child-rearing practices, attitude towards wealth, freedom, and government, and the day-to-day dressing pattern, and of course the food and social norms. So, does it make sense now to say that America is a melting pot or a kaleidoscope? Well, I would say that America is a kaleidoscope, because these differences that I mentioned, difference in things like religious beliefs, sex and gender norms, child-rearing practices, attitudes towards wealth, freedom, and government, and then day-to-day dress. All these differences that we see in American custom today can make one to believe that America is more like a kaleidoscope than a melting pot. Now, which brings us to another concept that we call managing diversity. How do we manage diversity? So, I would say that most large corporations today are multinational firms that maintain manufacturing, marketing, service, or administrative operations in many different countries. So in fact, virtually all of the 500 largest US industrial corporations maintain operations in more than one nation, more than one country. So which means that it is important to know the cultural tendencies of business partners, competitors, employees, and customers. And if you know that, then you are on your way to success. So I give some examples here. I use the Navajos. That Navajos are a Native American tribe that live in the four corner regions of Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico. That's where the Navajos live. They are Native African American tribe. They call them, sometimes they call them American Indians. You know, so to the Navajos, if you have a business that operates there, it is important to understand their their culture. Generally speaking, the Navajos they are regarded to have a what they call a collectivist culture. They are collectivists. That's the best way to put it. That means they believe in clan. They don't believe much in individualism. They believe on group, clan. They're clannish. So to them, saving money for your individual upliftment is not an honorable act. In fact, to them, it is a dishonorable act. So if you have let's just say that you're a bank and you want to market individual retirement accounts, to that group. If you market it to individually, if you tell it to favor individual, customers, you may not be able to sell it. It will be like selling pork in a vegetarian convention. It will be so hard to do that. But if you market it by telling them how it will benefit the family or the clan, in that case, you will make a lot of sales. Also, research showed wide variation in primary work values for different religious affiliates. For Catholics, you have things like consideration, they value it. For Protestants, they value the work effectiveness. For Buddhists, they value more of responsibility. And for Muslims, they want continuity, So, which lead us to the next concept, which is leadership behavior patterns. Leadership behavior pattern. As you can see from here, similar to what I have said a few minutes ago, that leadership patterns differ from culture to culture, and their belief system and their culture also differ. So Malayan culture puts a premium on harmony, so that leaders in that culture tend to show compassion. But in German culture, which is more of a European culture, they tend to be more direct and demanding because they value efficient performance more. Which leads us to now, having explained these two things, I can now give you a more clear picture of what individualism and collectivism is. An individualistic culture, as you can see from the screen, the individualistic culture, in that kind of culture, people seek personal growth and celebrate individual success and accomplishment. A good example of that culture is the United States, Canada, and most of the Western European countries. So, as we are in the US, I'm going to use US to explain more on this. US, in America, we tend to we value individualism. We admire personal success, and we have a strong belief in individual rights and the desire for personal freedom, and self-expression. So that means the extended family. That's why you have the extended family system is not strong in the US, because we are looking at individual. Look at the individual. What is for me, and me, not for us, So it's not a strong thing. Not that strong in America. So, and I give some example here. On average, more than in individualistic culture, when compared to collectivist one, it speaks louder, play louder music, and so on and so forth. Now, they train their children to be more assertive, speak your mind, autonomous and influential. So you can see that the American kids are very open. They are free to talk. They can ask you questions, even there's some questions that are embarrassing, but they will ask it because they are encouraged to to do that. Nothing wrong with it. It's a culture, but because we have the individualistic culture. I'll give you an example. Suppose that is the one I have here, a school of fish. Let's say that a group of fish swimming, and there's one fish ahead of the other ones. American mom will say, tell his children, if they are teaching the children, his child, her child, something with that picture, using that picture. See a group of fish. One is with one fish in front. She might tell the child that the one in front is the leader of the group. Now, I will show you how this contrasts with the collectivist culture. Collectivist culture, think of group, family. It's a group, extended family system, or a group. So they value group well-being, unlike the individualistic culture. So the individualistic interest is not they don't really value that much. So in such a culture, people show more awareness of others' needs and understanding of others' perspective. And we see that kind of culture in China. Most Asian countries have it, and most African countries have it too. So a mother in a collectivist culture spends more time than an individualistic culture, suiting the child and maintaining contact and facilitating contact with the other adults. So they are more, not that they are more involved with the child, but they have a different way of doing it. Now they're more that because it is about group team. It makes the children to more accommodative of the extended family or group interest. Now, in that picture I painted for the individualistic culture, whereby we have a group of fish swimming, and one of them is ahead of the other ones. In an individualistic culture, the mom will tell the child that first one is the leader of the group. But in a collectivist culture, the mother will frown at that fish that is ahead of the others. She will tell the child that actually that fish must have done something wrong, and that's because of that no one wants to play. None of the fish want to play with it. So you can see a big difference. So the bottom line is that in this kind of culture, the collectivist culture, we have the ethical principles. Excuse me. I would say the ethical principles without violating the ethical principles. A leader with range of a simple way of saying it is this, that a leader who has the ability to adjust to these cultural practices and policies or customs is the leader that will succeed. In other words, for example, a leader that understands collectivist culture tend to prefer he will understand, or she will understand, that people in that culture, if that is where his company is located or her company is located, he will prefer, he will understand that people in that culture will prefer rewards that are distributed equally among the group-wide basis, as opposed to a reward that is tied to individual achievement. So now, if it's in that culture and and he or she is promoting or encouraging individual achievement and awarding individual or rewarding individual achievement, there's going to be a tension in that in his company, because the people that work for you don't really value that. They prefer to be rewarded as a group and as an individual. So, which bring us to next thing in line, which is called diversity today. Diversity today. So as you can see from the screen, today diversity refers to more than race, religion, gender, and ethnicity. So it refers to more than that. It is a broad term that encompasses many differences, including age, disability status, military experience, sexual orientation, economic class, educational level, personality characteristics, and lifestyle. Excuse me. So in the enlightened workplace, there is a philosophy of do I pronounce this word? That's a philosophy of pluralism that and relentless effort to eliminate racism, sexism, ageism, and other discriminations. So where this occurs, all people have reason to believe that they are accepted and respected, and that their voices will be heard. You know, so now under diversity is a prescription. It is important to understand that that the prescription is in turn is to turn the wall. The prescription for diversity is to turn the walls in our minds and hearts into bridges, change the walls, turn them into bridges, bridges that join and make a structure that is stronger than the individual cells. In other words, the prescription is to remember to value diversity as a strength. So to that end, it is important to remember the following. One is that all people should be treated with respect and dignity. We must have an eye level approach instead of an eyes down approach in our dealings with people, regardless of their social status. So we also need to remember that every person should model and reinforce an essentially democratic character and humanistic approach to life. So another thing we need to remember is this, that valuing diversity provides strength and positive advantage for organizations that operate in multicultural environments. So now, having said that, we now take a look at the best practices for recommended for diversity management. So organizations can implement these best practices to maintain a competitive business advantage and also capitalize on the potential of diverse workforce. So now, having said that, I feel confident now to say that to list the best practices that an organization can implement. The first one is the commitment from top management. Commitment, the best practice they can follow with respect to diversity. First one is the commitment from top management. Workforce diversity can succeed if and only if it is adopted by a shared vision within the management, within the top management. I put it that way. So the senior executives of an organization are responsible for policy formulation, and they can promote or eliminate workplace diversity depending on the policies they make. So that when the senior management fails to show a commitment to implementing the diversity strategies, then the diversity plan becomes severely limited. So that's the first one, is the commitment. Okay. The second one is the identifying the new talent pools. So as you can see from the screen, so if the workers are leaving the organization, that more people leave than are being hired, then management should immediately try to figure out what is going on. Most companies prefer to hire new employees using the traditional methods, going to graduate school to recruit. But the prescription for this one is this: the company should explore other talent pools, such as veterans exiting the military, hiring them. Hiring minority groups who are qualified, and of course the talent for, getting talent from other countries or regions. So hiring individuals with diverse skill and knowledge can help the company to deliver a better service to their clients. The next prescription is to provide a safe avenue for dialogue on diversity-related issues. So organizations should create resource groups where employees from different backgrounds can connect and communicate their concern in a safe environment. I would say in a safe environment. Now, we cannot help it. The world is changing so much and so fast. And given the globalization and of course the internet, you can get talent you can recruit from anywhere, and it is even easier to do that now. You no longer need to go through. Well, some companies still go through hire through employment agencies, or what you call headhunters. You pay them to scan for talent anywhere across the globe. But now with the internet, and almost all the companies now have website. You don't exist as a company in the global arena if you don't have a website. And when you have a website and then you post jobs on your website, the talents that you need, that means like you're posting it to the whole world. Anybody can see it. Anybody who is qualified, and if you are open to hiring employees from different region, country, regardless of their race, then that means you increase the chance of getting the kind of talent you need. If you go to big tech companies like Google or Facebook, Apple, most of the engineers were not from US. I would say many of them were not from US. So when it comes to diversity as an organization, you should create a resource group, that make it possible for people from minority groups not to feel isolated to organizations. And that will open up for you to have access to a very large database of talented people or talented workers that when you hire them, and then it will help you to grow your company. Now, if they're in the company also, once you hire them, create what they call an enabling environment that we make them be free to explore, to work, comfortable to work, and working for you. Now, when you do that, the employees, from experience, from research, have shown that when you make your employees happy, they'll give you their best. So now creating an avenue for mentorship, networking, and socializing is very, very important for your workforce. So when they have that avenue, they feel accepted. They feel that they are part of the deal. They feel that their job is, that the company values them. Then they'll give you their best. Now, another one is this: make diversity part of the company's objectives. Make it to be part of the company's objectives. An organization that practices workforce diversity should not shy away from letting the world know that the company that it embraces diversity. Now, I think I mentioned it at the beginning of the class tonight that it is almost like a good standard. Almost every company that have a website have a session where they make statement about diversity, equal employment opportunity. They don't discriminate on basis of age, race, sexual orientation, and so on and so forth. So make it known. Don't have to hide it in the cupboard. Make it known that your work, your company is values diversity and does not discriminate in any of those things that I mentioned. Okay. Now, company that does that, most of the companies that are big today are the company that can, that embraced diversity, because the talent is, the talent is there out. US have how many people in the US live in US? But let's say 350 million people. But how many live in the world? In the world, China alone have a population of up to a billion, if not more than that. Okay. Almost okay. Let me show you. I think I have this population clock. Let me see if I can pull it out from this website. The world population clock. Okay. Yeah, let me see. World population. Okay, I think it's clock, right? Yeah, I think this is clock. Yep. Worldometer. So you can see. Let me see if I can connect you to that. Yeah, I think this is it. So as I'm talking to you, more people are being born. So you can see the people are added. Now let's see if they can tell us by country. By country. You see, by country. Yeah. You can see China has more than a billion people, right? India have more than a billion. The United States then have, so these two is already more than about 2-something billion outside the US. They have Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, Nigeria. You see this. So these are talents. I mean, they're not limited to, you don't want to limit yourself to only US, which have only just 331 million people. You want to, get as much as you can that will help you to produce or what you are producing at a affordable cost, or make it more efficient, more affordable, and make you more competitive so that you can outsmart the competitor and control the market. And the only way to do that is to be open to employing from anywhere, any part of the world, but so long as that person or that group or whatever have the talent that you need. And that is why diversity is important. If you're not diverse, you can't do that. You can't do all that. Now, so next, how to the distinguishing between diversity and the affirmative action. Well, various governments around the world have implemented affirmative action, usually to provide more opportunities for women and minority groups. So those affirmative actions, they complement diversity, but they are different from diversity. Diversity is more is a proactive action. Affirmative action is meant to compensate for past discrimination, but diversity is not that. Diversity is something that just you want to open up. It's not reactive. It requires a change in the way you do business. So you do business in a way that it's more inclusive. Unlike diversity, affirmative action is there has been a past wrong that discriminate against women or minorities. Then they want to compensate. Some government want to compensate for that. So they made something like affirmative action with creating affirmative action programs, which is something similar to reverse discrimination, just to to make it equalize opportunity, basically, and of course it is a way of it's a form of reward, paying people for some wrong that have been committed in the past. I mean, it worked. It worked. Some people were able to take advantage of that affirmative action programs to, do something nice, good for themselves, and became very successful. Now, diversity doesn't involve trying to pay back for something that was done in the past or to compensate for the past wrong. No, it's just that you are changing your way of doing business to be more inclusive and accommodate any type of talent, irrespective of their culture, race, and so on and so forth. Now, any question before we round up? Any question? Any question?
No.
All right. So I will say read the chapter for the week, do your homework, and then I will see you next week. Okay?
All right. See you next week.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.